with their international obligations. Colleagues, we stand at a critical juncture, with Resolution 2231 being mere months away from expiration and a joint comprehensive plan of action still to achieve its core mandate. Guyana recalls that the JCPOA, endorsed by Resolution 2231, was meant to ensure that Iran's nuclear program will be of an exclusively peaceful nature. Guyana also recalls that Resolution 2231 encouraged member states to cooperate with Iran in the framework of the JCPOA, including through IAEA involvement. It also encourages cooperation in the field of peaceful uses of nuclear energy and engagement in mutually determined civil nuclear cooperation projects in accordance with Annex 3 of the JCPOA. We acknowledge the 19th report of the Secretary General on the implementation of Security Council Resolution 2231. We concur with his assessment that a diplomatic solution that ensures the exclusively peaceful nature of the Iranian nuclear program and promotes economic and trade cooperation between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the international community is the only viable pathway to peace and prosperity. We took note of last month's IAEA report on Iran's implementation of its commitment under the JCPOA, submitted in accordance with paragraph 4 of Resolution 2231. Notwithstanding the current circumstances, in fact, because of it, we encourage continued cooperation between the IAEA and Iran, including in addressing outstanding safeguards issues and in assessing the safety and security risks of the nuclear facilities. We also support the vital efforts of the Secretary General and the Joint Commission's procurement channel in facilitating the implementation of Resolution 2231 and the plan. Colleagues, Guyana recalls that agreement on the JCPOA was reached through intensive multilateral negotiations. We must continue to work towards the full implementation of the plan. Guyana believes that this is vital to ensuring regional and international peace and security, and for building confidence and trust among the parties. We therefore urge all participants to return to the plan and to engage in dialogue and diplomacy as a matter of urgency. Mutually assured destruction can never be a good policy. We urge stronger commitment toward the Non-Proliferation Treaty and encourage states that have not yet done so to accede to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. We underscore the need for decisive action by the international community in advancing the abolition of nuclear weapons. In conclusion, I reiterate Guyana's commitment to a world free of nuclear weapons and one where there is greater investment in peace. I thank you. I resume my function as President of the Council. The representative of the United States has asked for the floor to make a further statement. I give her the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I am compelled to respond to some assertions made by certain council members. I spoke earlier about the precision operation the United States took to degrade Iran's capacity to produce a nuclear weapon. We did not take this action lightly, and we are confident that it is consistent with the inherent right of self-defense under the UN Charter. Nothing in the IAEA statute prevents states from taking legitimate steps for their own or collective self-defense. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States for her statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Thank you. In the name of God, the Compassionate and Merciful, thank you, Madam President, for convening this meeting. Today is International Women's Day in Diplomacy. Let me begin by congratulating you and all women diplomats on this occasion. I also congratulate you on your successful leadership of the Council thus far in June. And I commend your tireless efforts in convening emergency meeting to draw the Security Council attention to the aggression by Israel and the United States against my country and the blatant violation I wish to sincerely thank our brotherly and friendly nation, the state of Qatar, for its sincere and diplomatic efforts to help end Israeli aggression, establish a ceasefire, and prevent a further escalation of regional tensions that threaten peace and stability in the region. We thank Under Secretary General Ms. DiCarlo for her briefing. We take note of the Secretary General's report. We echo ourselves with the Secretary General's call for a diplomatic solution in his report, as well as with the USG in her today's briefing. We welcome Slovenia as facilitator of Resolution 2231 and appreciate Ambassador Jubogar and his team for preparing the report and today's briefing. We take note of the statement made by the Ambassador Lambrinidis, head of delegation of the European Union in the capacity of the coordinator of JCPOA. Madam President, first and foremost, I wish to express my strong objection to the participation of the delegation of the Israeli regime in this meeting. Legally and procedurally, Israel has no standing to take part in this meeting. This regime has no connection to the agenda of the meeting, no Resolution 2231 or the JCPOA. The participants to the JCPOA, as mentioned in Resolution 2231, are clearly defined, and the Council's practice in convening meetings under this agenda item has always been limited to the JCPOA participants. Madam President, this meeting is the final Security Council briefing on Resolution 2231 before its expiration in October 2025. In this context, I would like to make following points. First, the U.S. unilateral withdrawal from the JCPOA in 2018, it then imposed illegal extraterritorial sanctions violating UN Security Council Resolution 2231. Iran has honored its commitment in confronting the United States with the full support from the UK, France, and Germany, has repeatedly violated both the spirit and letter of the JCPOA, as well as Resolution 2231. The root causes of the current situation are simple and clear. Therefore, they are not in a position to accuse Iran of non-compliance. Second, today's meeting takes place as my country faces an unprovoked military aggression that blatantly violates international law, the UN Charter, the Statute of the IAEA, the General Conference Resolution, and Resolution 2231. This Resolution 2231 calls on all UN member states to avoid actions that undermine the resolution and the JCPOA. However, with the full US support, Israel has targeted Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities, civilians, and civilian infrastructure. Israel falsely justified these attacks on Iran's peaceful nuclear program as an imminent threat. This claim is baseless and has no legal base. In reality, Israel, the region's only undeclared nuclear-armed entity and non-party to NPT, refused IAEA inspections and monitoring, while Iran complies with the NPT and has subjected its nuclear program to the most rigorous IAEA monitoring. The breach of Resolution 2231 and international law is not limited to Israel. The United States, a permanent council member responsible for upholding its resolution, also attacked Iran nuclear facilities under IAEA safeguard. Third, it is profoundly troubling that even after a decade of Resolution 2231, Iran's fully monitored peaceful nuclear program has been repeatedly targeted by Israel and the United States. These illegal actions set a dangerous precedent, undermine the non-proliferation regime, and damage the credibility of the Security Council. Resolution 2231 was intended to promote peaceful solution and strengthen the Council's role in preventing unnecessary crises. However, reckless attacks on Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities by Israel and the US has gravely weakened this role. It is disappointing that the Council failed to condemn these illegal attacks, despite a strong request by Resolution 487, which prohibits such illegal acts. We call on the Council to, at the very least, explicitly condemn these aggressions and ensure they don't happen again. Fourth, the double standards are blatant. While the US, the UK, France maintain massive nuclear arsenals and overlook Israel's undeclared stockpiles, they baselessly claim Iran's peaceful program threatens international peace and security. These political accusations have been refuted for years by Iran's transparency and by its full cooperation with IAEA. If they truly care about the non-proliferation regime, they must condemn Israel's violation of international law and Resolution 487. Fifth, claims that Iran has violated Resolution 2231 are groundless. For past decades, Iran has upheld Resolution 2231 and the JCPOA. Our remedial measures have been fully consistent with these two instruments, meant only to restore balance and encourage all parties to return to their commitment. Iran's remedial measure must not be misused to justify new pressure on the JCPOA or Resolution 2231. The Council must prevent any attempt to manipulate this mechanism against Iran. Sixth, Resolution 2231 must conclude on a schedule, and Iran reject any attempt to revive expired provisions under any pretext. Unfortunately, European JCPOA participants have failed to meet their obligation. Even worse, they falsely assert that Iran is close to acquiring nuclear weapons, a falsehood unsupported by credible evidence. Our peaceful program under strict IAEA verification cannot be denied. Despite this aggression and the unconstructive behavior of the European parties, Iran remains committed to diplomacy and peaceful dispute resolution. Resolution 2231 proved that diplomacy can and must resolve differences. Seventh, Iran continues to believe a diplomatic resolution to nuclear and sanction issue is possible. Our commitment is evident through our full implementation of JCPOA and Resolution 2231. But if the other parties truly want a resolution, they must respect Iran's right and stop undermining diplomacy. 8. Iran never initiated this war. Once the aggressors stopped their attacks, Iran stopped its lawful military response as well. Nevertheless, Iran will not overlook the deceit and double standards. Our brave armed forces remain fully prepared to respond to any further threats or violation. Finally, to conclude, Madam President, we are now closer to diplomacy than ever before. The long, large-scale war they thought could force Iran into so-called unconditional surrender and make it abandon its peaceful nuclear program through intimidation, threats, and the use of force has failed more clearly than ever. They unleashed their full military might, supporting and providing Israel with advanced fighter jets, sophisticated weaponry, and the most powerful bombs, even bunker busters, to attack Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities, and covertly, deliberately, and indiscriminately targeted civilians and critical infrastructures. These attacks led to the martyrdom of hundreds of innocent people, including women, children, nuclear scientists, academics, athletes, students, aid workers, and senior military officials, and left thousands more injured. We honor martyrs for their sacrifices as well as our brave, patriotic people in defense of our homeland. Iran emerged proud and steadfast in the face of this criminal aggression. This proves one simple truth more clearly than ever: diplomacy and dialogue are the only path to resolving the unnecessary crisis over Iran's peaceful program. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran for his statement, and I give the floor now to the representative of Germany.
Madam President, I would like to thank Undersecretary General Di Carlo, Ambassador Spogar, and Ambassador Lambrininis for their valuable briefings and continuous efforts to implement United Nations Security Council Resolution 2231. For 2 decades, this Council has been deliberating on the Iranian nuclear program. We find ourselves at a particularly difficult juncture today. France, Germany, and the United Kingdom have consistently made every effort to find a diplomatic solution with Iran and will continue to do so, but the Iranian nuclear program remains a threat to international peace and security. Last Friday, the E3 foreign ministers and the EU High Representative met with their Iranian counterpart in Geneva to call upon Iran to engage in negotiations. We will continue our joint diplomatic effort to address all concerns associated with Iran's nuclear program. We have always been clear, Iran must not have a nuclear weapon. It can only be a non-nuclear weapon state under the NPT and must respect its nuclear safeguards obligations. Our efforts, conducted jointly with many partners around the globe, have aimed at preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. We successfully concluded the JCPOA, which put robust and verifiable restrictions on Iran's nuclear program and would have provided the entire international community with confidence that Iran's nuclear activities remain exclusively peaceful. Throughout the last years, we witnessed an expansion of Iran's nuclear program far beyond Iran's commitments under the JCPOA. As of last month, Iran's enriched uranium stockpile were 40 times higher than allowed under the JCPOA limits. Iran continued to enrich uranium to up to 60%, which lacks any plausible civilian purpose, in an underground facility. It stopped implementing almost all of its key and transparency commitments it subscribed to under the JCPOA as well. The E3 have always pursued diplomacy to find a solution to the Iranian nuclear proliferation crisis. In 21 and 22, we negotiated in good faith to bring the US back into the JCPOA and Iran to full compliance with its commitments. To no avail. Iran twice refused a fair proposal put on the table by the coordinator and decided to further escalate its nuclear program to the level we all know. In conjecture with Iran's failure to comply with its legally binding safeguards obligations, an assessment that was confirmed by the Board of Governors resolution last month, Iran's nuclear activities have remained a threat to regional and global security. Iran's nuclear program continues to pose serious proliferation concerns. We are particularly concerned by any possible relocation of nuclear materials since the recent military strikes. We reiterate that as a member of the NPT and its nuclear safeguards regime, Iran is obliged to declare and put all nuclear material located in Iran under IAEA safeguards. Iran must fully cooperate with the agency and refrain from threats against its personnel and DG Grossi himself, whose professional work we commend. In this regard, we are alerted by the initiative in the Iranian parliament to suspend cooperation with the agency, as well as by Iran's deliberations to withdraw from the NPT. In closing, let me welcome the ceasefire between Israel and Iran announced yesterday and call on, like others, Germany joins calls on all sides to respect it and to re-engage in diplomacy. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Germany for her statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Israel.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I would like to thank USG Di Carlo and the representatives from the EU and Slovenia for their remarks. To my colleague, the ambassador of Iran, I advise you, instead of giving advice to the Council how to conduct its affairs, to comply with the resolution of the Security Council, so we don't have to come back here almost every day and discuss the violations of Iran. Madam President, since launching Operation Rising Lion, Israel has worked to remove a double existential threat from both the nuclear threat and ballistic missiles. The IDF achieved complete air superiority over Tehran, struck a severe blow to the military leadership, and destroyed dozens of key regime targets. Our forces achieved the objectives of our operation in removing these threats. In full coordination with President Trump, Israel has agreed to the President's proposal for a ceasefire. We thank the United States for its support and critical role in removing the Iranian nuclear threat. Last night, the Iranian regime fired missiles at our civilian population. 4 innocent civilians were murdered in Beersheba. Their tragic deaths are a reminder of the evil we dealt with, a regime that could not restrain its hatred. Israel is a peaceful nation. We pray for peace 3 times a day. But make no mistake, we will respond forcefully to any violation of the ceasefire and any threat facing our people. I have no doubt that the leadership and the determination Israel displayed will allow the Abraham Accords to expand and bring other nations into the fold of normalization. Madam President, if there were a Nobel Prize for deception, the Iranian regime would win it every single year. It has broken every commitment it has ever made. There is no reason to believe this deception will not continue. Let's walk through the facts. In July 2015, this Council endorsed the JCPOA. Iran supposedly agreed to many conditions, restricting its enrichment, reducing its stockpile, and opening its facilities for inspection. In return, it was granted sanctions relief and global legitimacy. But even then, Iran was already building its exit strategy. By July 2019, Iran had already breached the 300-kilogram limit on enriched uranium. In January 2021, it resumed enrichment to 20%, more than 5 times the agreed limit. In April of that same year, it crossed into truly dangerous territory, enriching uranium to 60%. This is a level with no civilian application. In June 2022, Iran removed the IAEA's surveillance cameras and monitoring equipment, attempting to eliminate all oversight. Today, the IAEA is completely blind. As of May 2025, Iran's enriched uranium stockpile stands at over 9,000 kilograms. This includes more than 400 kilograms enriched to 60%. The IAEA has confirmed it can no longer verify the extent of Iran's program. For years, the international community spoke of Resolution 2231 and the JCPOA as a framework for peace. But for Iran, it was a framework for deception. While the diplomats and politicians talked, Iran built. While you negotiated, they enriched. While you hoped, they lied. Today, the regime in Tehran stands completely exposed as a regime that has weaponized every opportunity you gave it. Iran did not abandon its commitments last week or last month. It walked away from its obligations years ago, if it ever kept to them at all. It has been violating this resolution with impunity for as long as it existed. This Council just refused to see it. We all know that Iran's level of enrichment has no civilian usage. It's a fact. The Council doesn't need a nuclear scientist to understand what that means. The international community now knows what Israel has known for a long time. Iran was working on the key elements for a nuclear bomb in hidden facilities protected from international view. These were facilities like Fordo, originally built for 90% enrichment and hidden from the IAEA. Iran engaged in systematic, calculated assault on every safeguard this Council claimed would prevent them from attaining a bomb. Colleagues, Israel has been warning you for years. We warned you when Iran crossed the enrichment threshold. We warned you when it denied IAEA inspectors access. We warned you when it spanned lies at the negotiating table. Many of you refused to listen. You held onto the illusion that diplomacy was working. You convinced yourselves that silence was stability. You told yourselves the time was on your side. It wasn't. Iran used diplomacy as cover. It used this consul caution as protection. It used Resolution 2231 as protection while it built its dangerous arsenal. For years, what was Iran met with? Statements, concern, condemnations, but without consequences. Israel did what responsible nations must do when faced with extermination. We took action. We moved to dismantle what the world had allowed to grow unchecked. Madam President, this Council was built to uphold international law, not to be exploited by those who trample it. Today, as we speak, Iran remains untouched by consequences from the broader international community. The same Iran that refused IAEA inspections, the same Iran that enriched uranium to weapons-grade levels, the same Iran that used its seat at the table to delay, deceive, and arm itself. Madam President, there is still time to take meaningful and decisive action to ensure that the threat of a nuclear Iran does not return stronger than before. The international community must reassert its authority. It must remain vigilant. It must reimpose the measures necessary to deny Iran the tools of destruction. It must do so before the clock runs out. We are often told that diplomacy must be given a chance. It was given every chance, every round, every channel, every deadline, but so far it has failed. The regime in Tehran never had any intention of complying. Colleagues, you know who you are dealing with. You are not engaging with a regime that negotiates in good faith. You are dealing with the masters of lies, deceit, and delay. You have seen how they respond to your usual approach. So I urge you, take a different approach. Israel has done its part. The United States has done its part. Now the world must do its part. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of Israel for his statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned.